Hey everyone, and welcome to this explainer. Today, we're embarking on a seriously fascinating macro to micro journey. We're going to travel all the way from the giant sun in our sky, right down to the microscopic light inside our very own cells. We really want to understand exactly how light and color shape our physical and mental health. You know, we often take the light around us totally for granted, but as you'll see today, it's actually a fundamental driver of our well-being.
I mean, it sounds like total science fiction, doesn't it? But before we get to the amazing fact that our cellular DNA actually acts as an antenna for ultraviolet light, which is wild, by the way, we need to start at the source of it all. We really need to look at how we interact with the light we experience every single day.
So here's the spectrum of topics we're traversing today. 1. Sunshine and biological rhythms. 2. The language of color. 3. Healing with light therapy. And finally 4. Advanced light medical technologies.
All right, let's just jump right in with Section 1. Sunshine and biological rhythms.
Our bodies evolved over millions of years to align perfectly with the Earth's 24-hour light-dark cycle. Think of morning daylight as the ultimate reset button. It synchronizes our internal circadian clocks. Then, the midday sun hits us with that vital dose of vitamin D. And you know, evening darkness is just as crucial because it prompts the pineal gland to release melatonin so we can actually get some restorative sleep. So the big takeaway here is that when we mess with this, like working irregular hours or staring at bright screens late at night, it deeply disrupts this rhythm. And research shows that this disruption can lead to hormonal imbalances, sleep disorders, and even long-term stuff like heart disease. Basically, we are creatures of light and dark.
Let's look at exactly how that light gets inside us. The physical journey of a photon zooming into the eye creates what are known as photocurrents. Light enters the transparent lens and strikes the retina, which is where our rods and cones hang out. These cells then generate electrical nerve signals that race down the optic nerve. But here is the really fascinating part. These signals don't just allow us to see. These photocurrents directly stimulate fundamental primitive brain centers. They reach the incredibly light-sensitive hypothalamus, pituitary, and pineal glands, triggering involuntary changes in both our physical and emotional states. Light literally powers our brain's control centers.
The whole process of vitamin D synthesis brilliantly illustrates one of the most famous interactions between our bodies and the sun. Vitamin D is actually a hormone, often called the sun hormone, and it doesn't just magically appear out of nowhere. It requires this really cool two-step activation process. The body starts by manufacturing a precursor out of cholesterol. Then, when UVB rays hit your skin, the light acts as a catalyst, triggering a conversion right in your liver. Finally, your kidneys activate it into functional vitamin D. And this active hormone goes on to regulate over 200 different genes in our body, managing everything from bone strength to our immune system.
Moving right along, let's dive into Section 2, the language of color.
Consider this quote for a second. Colors hold the remarkable ability to induce quantifiable and lasting transformations in the electrical and chemical activity of both the body and the brain. Color is, at its core, a universal language of electromagnetic frequencies. Each distinct wavelength of color we perceive exerts actual physical energy on our subconscious brain. So it's not just about an aesthetic preference for your living room paint, it's an instinctive language that influences plants, animals, and the literal chemical reactions happening inside you right this very second.
When we look at color neurology, a really fascinating dichotomy emerges. On one hand, warmer colors, like your reds, oranges, and yellows, literally trigger the sympathetic nervous system. They're stimulating. They drive adrenaline and push our brain into those faster fight-or-flight beta brainwaves. Conversely, cooler colors, like green, blue, and violet, resonate with the parasympathetic nervous system. They actually decelerate the nervous system, promote resting and digesting, and guide us into much slower, calmer theta and delta brainwaves.
Let's make this highly practical. Because red has a long wavelength and a very dynamic energy, being in a red environment, or even consuming red foods, can physically stimulate your motor system and even enhance your body's capacity to absorb iron. On the flip side, blue vibrations have a literal cooling effect. If you have an energetic, inflammatory blockage, which, usually presents as red and hot, applying blue light can cool the area, clear blockages, and help soothe pain, fevers, or skin abrasions.
Okay, up next is Section 3, Healing with Light Therapy.
The whole concept of healing with light is definitely not new. From ancient Greek and Roman sunlight therapies used for skin disorders to modern medical applications, direct exposure to light has always been a potent tool. Today, we use deliberate sunbathing for vitamin D and mood enhancement.
In clinics, there's heliotherapy for treating tricky conditions like psoriasis. And for those of us trapped indoors during the dark winter months, light boxes that mimic bright, natural sunlight are incredible tools for combating seasonal affective disorder, while dawn simulators gently fix disrupted sleep patterns.
Building on that, we have incredibly targeted therapies like color puncture. Developed by a German naturopathic physician named Dr. Peter Mandel, color puncture takes the somewhat esoteric idea of color healing and grounds it into a highly specific physical therapy. By using a specialized pen to focus single concentrated wavelengths of colored light directly onto traditional acupuncture points, practitioners can actually stimulate the body's meridians without using any needles whatsoever. It perfectly merges ancient meridian mapping with modern light frequency application.
And that brings us to our final stop, Section 4, Advanced Light Medical Technologies.
Welcome to the bleeding edge of healthcare, biophotonics. This is an interdisciplinary field combining the physics of photonics with biology. By utilizing light-based tech, doctors can perform completely non-invasive tissue imaging. It is absolutely revolutionizing diagnostics. We are talking about things like early cancer detection and mapping abnormal tissue growth using optical coherence tomography, all without making a single surgical incision.
Now, when we harness light into lasers, we get incredibly concentrated, organized beams of energy, making them perfect for a massive range of therapies. We use low-level laser therapy, sometimes called cold lasers, to reduce nerve inflammation and manage chronic pain. Lasers are used in photodynamic therapy for oncology, for extremely precise eye and dental surgeries, and as we just mentioned, they offer a painless alternative for meridian stimulation in laser acupuncture.
But here is what's truly revolutionary: how light itself acts as the exact trigger, like a key in a lock, to activate medicines deep inside the human body. In therapies like photodynamic therapy, patients are given light-sensitive compounds. These medicines stay completely dormant, totally inactive, until a highly specific wavelength of laser light is shown onto the tissue. Once the light hits the medicine, bam! It triggers a chemical reaction that can selectively destroy cancer cells or targeted pathogens like bacteria and viruses, while leaving the surrounding healthy tissue completely unharmed.
Bringing our macro to micro journey completely full circle, we finally arrive at the light generated inside you. Biophotons are ultra-weak ultraviolet light emissions. And where do they come from? The cells in our body. This weak cellular light is actually attributed to the DNA double helix itself. Our DNA acts just like a microscopic spiral antenna, continuously emitting and receiving these ultraviolet photons to exchange vital biological information and communicate with neighboring cells. We are, quite literally, beings of light.
I want to leave you with this provocative thought to consider. We spend so much time using light just to see the world around us, but light is also the fundamental language of the body itself. If we can master the frequencies of our own biology, from the colors we surround ourselves with to the advanced biophotonic therapies of tomorrow, the potential for a healthy lifestyle and profound healing is truly limitless. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep seeking the light.